Okay, Development Christchurch, quarterly status update. Okay, guys, away you go.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. The report is in two parts, the public section and the public excluded. So just starting with the public part of the report, works are progressing well in New Brighton with respect to the hot pools. Works well out of the ground for those who have been out there recently. The hoardings around and children have been involved in the community in decorating those, and the project is on track for delivery for early next year. I was out there on Saturday. New Brighton was busy. Lots of people on the pier, on the foreshore, people even out braving the cold water, surfing, using the playground and the facilities, which was good to see. Still a lot to be done with respect to the commercial core. The other bit I can update you on here in public is to do with Christchurch Adventure Park. So there have been some changes made to the governance structure of that organisation. We have issued a letter of intent to them to be very clear around our expectations of the park, and we've received their statement of intent and draft, which we're reviewing at the moment to get the business operating as we would like. We are progressing well on Peterborough Central, and I can pick up on that in a bit more detail later as we look to finalise commercial arrangements with developers, plural. And then there's a number of other activities that we've been heavily involved with respect to council, which we can pick up in the public excluded session in a bit more detail. So, is there any questions?
Are there any questions? Pauline?
Yeah, and you may not have the answer, but I'm just interested in the mural that you're doing there, and you've got the school children engaged. They'll be doing the painting of them, I assume? Yeah,
on one side of it, yes.
I'm just wondering if you've got any kind of idea of what that's going to cost.
It hasn't cost very much. One of my members of staff went out on a weekend and they painted the backdrop of it with paint that they got themselves, so that cost pretty much nothing. Okay. And then there was a bit of work for the professional artist as part of the just the security arrangements of the hoardings that was incorporated in that, so not very much at all.
Right, well, thank you.
Vicky?
Yep. We've been targeting March. But the key construction risks are yet to come up, which will really be around boreholes, which you're left to the laps of the gods a wee bit with that. So it's very exciting, and look, we're getting a lot of public interest about it, as you'd expect. There are people querying some aspects of it, but generally they're all pretty positive.
Thanks, Rob. I want to ask you about the murals too. I think it's marvellous that the school kids have been involved, and I just wondered, once that's all completed by these kids, is there a way, perhaps as part of community engagement, that we have a special celebration with all of the schools? Maybe something special for all the kids in the area? Oh yeah, we can give that some thought. Yep. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, I had a question too, Raf, at the appropriate time.
Anne, and
cool,
then Yanni.
thank you. Just with the Adventure Park, I often get asked why we've bailed them out.
Yep.
And I just wonder if you can just remind us, apart from the investment that we've already put in,
yes,
what are some of the reasons why Christchurch needs the Adventure Park?
So there's probably two different questions there. So the first question was around the shortfall guarantee underwrite that the council had put in place. So rather than that be paid to the bank, in which there was debt held, and that goes through potentially a receivership process, that money has been redeployed in as equity, which has raised our shareholding to 54.73%, which has avoided the receivership event, which has continued the operation of the park and therefore increased the public ownership of it for the same amount of money, in fact a slightly less amount. So we think, second part of the question then is, why is it important? Christchurch lacks tourism infrastructure, visitor attractions, which this is one of. It is not complete from the original vision, and that's going to take a slightly different direction going forward. It also was a response to the Share an Idea campaign that was held some years ago after the earthquakes, where there was a desire by communities to better use the assets which are the Port Hills. So as a reminder, people can access the trails for free, the public walkways through there for free, and the cafeteria. You can go in and sit there. What you're paying for is rental of equipment and use of the lift, which is the expensive infrastructure that's been built. So the other component was, I think it's important when we still have private sector investment in assets like that, that they are able to be sustained and continue to be delivered and survive in Christchurch. You know, if we can't maintain a facility like that with the patronage, you know, for some of the reasons you've heard from Christchurch NZ, then it's a sad state of affairs. So it's important we have these assets thriving. We think we have now set it in a direction that will improve that.
Brilliant. And just following up, in terms of internationally, how's the Adventure Park seen? I think I remember you saying.
Yeah, so it has a profile internationally. I think previously the view was to very much market it as an international bike park. I think the harsh analysis of the numbers is suggesting otherwise, that its predominant use is local. So that is where we need to target this park, and I'll maybe pick up a bit later of the direction we think it needs to go in.
Yeah. Thank you. It's really helpful.
Okay, Yanni?
Thank you. Just related to the Adventure Park, now that we're the majority shareholder, has there been any consideration to, like we've done previously as a council when we've invested in things, we've given, for example, a free park, and 1 day free a year, a family pass, something along with our rates notice? That's been something we've used previously. So I just wondered if there was any moves towards doing something like that to enable more people to be able to access it at least once a year.
I'd like to say that's certainly been looked at, and I'm happy to talk a bit more detail about that in the next part of the meeting, perhaps. But the answer is that it's certainly been looked at.
Right. Just picking up on the suburban regeneration, and you may have heard the question to Christchurch NZ, but I just wanted to know if you've got indicators that you've used in terms of looking at that suburban regeneration, looking at New Brighton, for example. Just how will you measure what's happening in terms of success, in terms of your objectives around the wellbeing in those communities with the investment that you're making or that you're proposing?
Yeah, we're not measuring those sorts of metrics. I mean, in a community such as New Brighton, I know, the useful anecdotal feedback you get is from people like Dr. John Cook in the community around what he observes. New Brighton still requires some effort, and the roading project on Marine Parade and Oram Ave extension is foreseen in the suburban master plan are particularly important components to that. But in terms of footfall traffic and counters around the foreshore development, we're monitoring, and we have interviewed some shop owners since the playground, and certainly there were improved metrics over the summer months, and we would anticipate that improving with the construction of the hot pools. We just need to ensure the offering at the top end of the mall captures people to stay and have lunch, coffee, utilise some of the retail that is there, and gradually see that improve as that asset comes online.
Right. And just the final question was in regards to suburban regeneration. the recommendations that you provided to council staff, what's the process for those to be reported up to us?
Yep, so I have a copy of the report sitting in front of me. It's dated 30th of April 2018. That was went through to the urban regeneration team as part of wider work. So it's probably a question best put to them to provide it to you, but there's no reason in my mind why it shouldn't be.
Out of that work then, is there one or two areas that you think we should be being more proactive in as a city?
Look, we've not done a detailed study looking to prioritise the various areas, but the areas we've had a particular look at were Linwood, Woolston, Littleton. We've done work in Bishopdale and then clearly in New Brighton. So some of these are about are probably easier to do than others because of the holding of public land, which by default make some interventions easier. Others are in differing states of degeneration, requiring intervention, and some of that, is organic. There are areas where people just need a helping hand to signpost them to the right places. So a bit of the work in Littleton, for example, by Stephen Hughes and our team was just to assist a couple of property owners with their engagement with council in the consenting process and just to help through that, which has just sped things up a wee bit. But there's probably a piece of work that could be done just to look at prioritising the suburban areas with respect to what could be done there. So it's done in a more coordinated way where money and effort is going to be expended.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Glenn?
Yeah, thanks, Rev. Thanks, Rob. Just back on New Brighton, quite an interesting piece of work, obviously. Do you see it as you're attempting to get people from the foreshore into the commercial area? Regen, in a sense, is coming from the other side, attempting to draw people out to commercial areas. So do you see it as a joined up double tackle, if you like, to make it work?
I'm not sure I've understood fully the regen connection.
Well, that's bringing people from the other way. So we're all trying to get economic stimulus into New Brighton. So regen is the city to sea direction. Yours is a much shorter.
Right. Yep. So look, we've certainly in some of the work, and even just when I've spoken to people out at the playground last summer, we're certainly getting people coming in from out of town. I mean, I think what I sort of hear and see is after Margaret Mayhew, the New Brighton playground over summer was probably the second most popular playground in the city. And it is attracting people in from places like Kaiapoi, because they can, so rather than just go to Pines Beach and just have beach, they're coming into New Brighton because there is beach, there's the pier, there is a playground, so there's a better offering. It's a bit closer to the city than Sumner, so it is actually, in terms of parking, more accessible in some ways, and it's in the right trajectory. It's not as quick as I would like. We are still getting hesitation from investors. But there is property now changing hands, which is positive. So the hot pools, it's about we've always targeted to get the balance right between local use and drawing people in to support the community.
And you're aware, just on the pools, I have been pushing through the board over the completion time with the stretch target of about another month. Me and Aaron were just talking. Yep. Even if we had part of it open, that coast to coast.
But we want it open as fast as possible, because the quicker I can get it constructed, the cheaper it'll be, because you get the contractors off-site.
That's massive
faster.
International exposure, working with Christchurch NZ. So
Glenn raised that point in a discussion before. Even if there's one or two of the pools just operational for that weekend, if you can speak to them, so it has like a pre-opening just for that weekend, then back to construction.
I mean, that'll be for the operational team of council who are going to operate the facility. I suspect that will be challenging to have, and there'll be health and safety issues. But we can look at it. But
I've worn my togs on a building site before. It can still be.
Okay.
That's a
Pauline?
vision.
Morning.
Just quickly, when you mention the public realm allocation in the LTP, and you've mentioned that you'd like to see some of that brought forward,
Yep.
can you give us more detail on how much and what for, and is it in the annual plan you're looking at?
So there was, in the LTP, there is some money budgeted for public realm works, further public realm works in New Brighton and roading projects. The suburban master plan always envisaged an Aurum Ave being extended. We have somebody prepared to sell now. The building is vacant, so rather than wait years, go through Public Works Act, we probably have a willing seller now that we need to move on with little disruption. Once that works are complete and you've carved off another block and you've opened up a north-south orientated road, you have the opportunity then to for developers then have got some certainty of what and where they can develop. That will allow a frontage not too dissimilar to a new Regent Street style or the current Carnaby Lane to run parallel through there with protection from the easterly, and that would be a major move, and you can probably then recoup some of that money by selling back, because you'll need to buy the land for the road. But with that, you'll be taking on the strip immediately either side, so that would be able to be recycled.
And maybe we could drill into that a bit further in the next part.
So it would be fairly close to cost neutral in the end. It's a cash flow issue. We need the money up front now while we have where we think we can execute the deal.
Yeah, Vicky?
Annual plan,
Yep.
would that rank in your mind above the Marine Parade work?
I think we need to get the Marine Parade work done. I mean, I was on Monday, that was
So
flooded,
it wouldn't come
surface
above it?
water. It was a mess along the front of the playground and hot pools on that sunny Monday afternoon after, 90 mil of rain over the previous 50 odd hours, was by 2 in the afternoon had ankle deep of water on
Yeah,
it.
so was most of the city, but
Yep.
just in your mind,
Wow.
if only one of those could be done,
I'll
in the
finish
budget.
Marine Parade because it's been so much public
Yep.
consultation and the expectation is there that happen.
Okie dokie. Mike?
Quickly, just on the hot salt water pools, I'm just quick question about obviously the operator of that and actually any impact if it was brought forward slightly to try and time in with the coast to coast.
Well, the operator is the council.
Yeah, but so is the impact of actually being able to open it earlier?
Well, trying to open something when you are partway through building it or you are commissioning it, you will probably run into warranty issues with the builder, and it would need to be looked at carefully. But it depends what state and what's left to be built and done. But at the moment, I mean, all of the groundworks are done. The main building is up out of the ground. So we are progressing well. Getting boreholes first time drilled and working will be critical, because if you can't do that and have to relocate, then there'll be extension of underground services, and you'll start ramping up cost and risk quickly.
Okay. And DCL, you're just going to deliver it and then council will operate, or are you
Correct.
having any
Yep.
part in setting that up?
Well, we are helping work with there's quite a lot going on at the moment with the operational team around the small cafe that will be operated there, because we don't want it to have a detracting impact on other businesses nearby, so you want it to be the right offering. The operational teams have been meeting in the last 2 weeks, starting to get geared up for staff numbers and the ticketing and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Right, any other questions? Okay, thanks. We have a resolution to note the report. I'm happy to move. Seconded Dave. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All in favour say aye. Aye, against, that's carried.
Aye.
Thank you. Don't go away.